Rachel Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before I begin my statement, my thoughts and prayers are with those affected by the events in Southport, and I am sure that the whole House will join me in paying tribute to our emergency services who are dealing with this ongoing situation. Mr. Speaker, on my first day as Chancellor of the Exchequer, I asked Treasury officials to assess the state of public spending. That work is now complete, and
The £163 billion infrastructure crisis Rachel Reeves must solve. Before we dive into what could be the most consequential infrastructure decisions of this decade, do yourself a favor and hit that subscribe button. Because what I'm about to reveal will fundamentally change how you see Britain's economic future. And trust me, you'll want to be here when these projects either transform our nation or collapse spectacularly. This is British News Blog, and we don't do fluff. Rachel Reeves stood before the nation in June with all the pomp and circumstance of a chancellor who genuinely believes she's discovered the secret to economic growth. £15 billion for transport projects, she announced, chest puffed out, ready to convince us all that Labour finally takes infrastructure seriously. Fast forward to today, and whispers from Westminster suggest the November 26 budget will see her wielding the axe rather than the checkbook. Classic political theatre, isn't it? Promise the world, deliver a postcard. But here's where it gets interesting. Because whilst Reeves talks about tightening belts and fiscal responsibility, she's sitting on a powder keg of infrastructure projects totaling £163 billion that she simply cannot afford to ignore. Not if she values her political career. Not if she actually wants economic growth. Not if she gives a damn about the millions of Britons stuck in transport hell. Let's be brutally honest about where we are. Britain's transport network is an embarrassment. We're not comparing ourselves to some far-flung developing nation here. We're talking about other G7 countries, our supposed equals, who've left us eating their dust. Thousands of commuters wake up every morning not knowing if their train will arrive, how much it'll cost them, or whether they'll need to remortgage their homes just to get to work. Our roads resemble lunar landscapes, potholes causing billions in vehicle damage annually. Major cities, proper metropolitan centers with hundreds of thousands of residents, still don't have basic rapid transit systems. It's almost impressive how consistently mediocre we've managed to be. Sure, we see the occasional electrification here, a shiny new station there, but these are plasters on arterial wounds. The fundamental structure is broken. Reeves knows this. The question is whether she has the backbone to do something about it, or whether she'll join the long line of chancellors who talked big and delivered small. So let's examine the 5 projects that will define her tenure, and quite possibly, Britain's economic trajectory for the next generation. If you're not subscribed yet, now's the time, because we're about to get into the weeds of what really matters. First up, the Northern Powerhouse Rail, or as I like to call it, the project that refuses to die despite everyone's best efforts to kill it. This scheme has been knocking about for roughly a decade, originally branded as High Speed 3 by George Osborne, back when he was busy playing at being Chancellor. The concept was simple: connect Manchester, Leeds, and Liverpool with proper east-west rail links. Revolutionary, right? Except in Britain, actually building infrastructure rather than just talking about it seems to be beyond our capabilities. The current price tag sits at approximately £19 billion. Let me put that in perspective for you. Reeves's entire $15 billion announcement wouldn't even cover this single project. It wouldn't touch the sides. In September, we got yet another delay, this time blamed on the long-term cost of the Liverpool to Manchester section. Shocking. Who could have predicted that building railways might be expensive? Here's what makes this delay particularly galling. Back in 2020, experts calculated that improved connectivity between northern cities could generate an extra £3.4 billion annually. Per year. That's not some pie-in-the-sky projection from overly optimistic consultants. That's money flowing into regional economies, creating jobs, attracting investment, making life tangibly better for millions. But apparently, we'd rather penny pinch and delay, leaving that money on the table whilst simultaneously complaining about regional inequality and the north-south divide. The maths isn't complicated. Invest $19 billion, generate $3.4 billion per year, And that's before we account for increased productivity, reduced congestion, and improved quality of life. But this requires long-term thinking, something British politics seems constitutionally incapable of. Reeves needs to stop the delays, commit the funding, and actually build the damn thing. Moving to the varsity line, and honestly, this one's almost comedic in its dysfunction. We're talking about reconnecting Oxford and Cambridge, two cities that house some of the finest universities on planet Earth, institutions that sit atop global league tables and attract the brightest minds from across the world. The line was closed in the 1960s, because apparently, someone thought connecting two of Britain's intellectual powerhouses wasn't worth the bother. The idea to reconnect them surfaced in the 1990s. We're now in 2025. Think about that timeline. 30 years to reconnect two cities that absolutely should be linked. Oxford and Bicester managed to get connected in 2015, and we're expecting a Bicester to Milton Keynes route this December. Progress moves at glacial pace. Reeves confirmed funding for East-West Rail in January, along with A428 upgrades, which is encouraging. But the question remains, why has this taken 3 decades? This isn't some ambitious moonshot project. It's a railway line. Other countries build these in a fraction of the time. The economic potential of this corridor is staggering. You've got Oxford and Cambridge at either end, globally recognized brands that attract investment, talent, and innovation. The towns and cities between them could become hubs of technological and scientific advancement, if only they were properly connected. This is low-hanging fruit, economically speaking, yet we've somehow managed to fumble it for 30 years. Get a move on, as the article so perfectly puts it. The opportunities won't wait forever. Make sure you're subscribed because we're about to tackle the elephant in the room. HS2. Oh, HS2. Where do we even begin with this absolute omnishambles? We're all familiar with this farce by now. But let's recap for anyone who's been living under a rock. High Speed 2 was supposed to connect London with the Midlands and the North, reducing journey times, increasing capacity, and rebalancing the British economy. Noble goals. Except Rishi Sunak, in what can only be described as an act of extraordinary political selfishness, decided to cancel the northern leg. His reasoning: costs were spiraling. Fair enough, except canceling the northern section completely undermined the entire purpose of the project. HS2 was meant to boost northern cities. It's now not going there. The irony is almost poetic. So what's the point? We're building a high-speed rail line between London and Birmingham, and it might not even terminate at Euston Station in central London. Let that sink in. A high-speed line that doesn't reach the center of the capital. Absolutely brilliant planning. Reeves gave the green light in October for the tunnel between Old Oak Common and Euston, which is something, but works at Euston Station itself were delayed in February. At this point, HS2 has become a symbol of everything wrong with British infrastructure planning. Constantly changing scope, ever-increasing costs, political interference at every turn, and a final product that satisfies nobody. When I was studying for my MA at Birmingham in 2020, I saw the Curzon Street construction site during every single commute. It was genuinely exciting. The novelty never wore off. There was something thrilling about watching a major infrastructure project take shape, knowing it represented ambition and progress. We need to recapture that feeling. We need to restore confidence that Britain can still build big things. And most importantly, we need to extend HS2 to Leeds as originally planned. Anything less is a betrayal of the project's founding principles and a waste of the billions already spent. Now let's talk about Leeds specifically, because this city represents everything frustrating about British transport planning. Leeds is the largest city in Western Europe without any form of rapid transit system. No trams, no metro, nothing, just buses and regional trains. The population is around 812,000 people. That's not some small market town. That's a major metropolitan center, and it has no modern rapid transit. Compare that to Sheffield, which has the Supertram. Sheffield's population is around 556,000. Significantly smaller than Leeds, yet they've got a tram system that generated £17.6 million from 9.1 million passenger journeys in the year ending March 2025. That surplus goes to the South Yorkshire Mayoral Combined Authority, providing revenue that can be reinvested. Imagine what Leeds could generate with its larger population. The Chancellor announced £2.1 billion of local transport funding for West Yorkshire in the summer, which suggests movement in the right direction. But Leeds needs more than buses. It needs a comprehensive rapid transit system that can move hundreds of thousands of people efficiently. Coventry is getting its very light railway, the first of its kind globally, which is fantastic. But Leeds has been waiting far too long. The economic benefits are obvious. Improved mobility means better access to jobs, increased productivity, reduced congestion, and a more attractive city for investment. Businesses want to locate in cities with proper transport infrastructure. Talented workers want to live in cities where they can move around easily. Leeds is being held back by the lack of basic infrastructure that other comparable cities take for granted. Reeves must prioritize this. Finally, and this one might be controversial, we need to talk about London. I can already hear the howls of protest from viewers outside the capital. Why should London get more money when other regions are desperate for investment? It's a fair question, and I say this as someone who grew up in the Midlands where public transport is comparatively dire. But here's the reality. Not everyone in London is a wealthy hedge fund manager with a fancy car. Millions of ordinary people rely on public transport to get to work, access services, and live their lives. And London's economic output benefits the entire country. Crossrail 2, planned to run between Surrey and Hertfordshire, would have a transformative impact similar to the Elizabeth Line, which opened in 2022. The Elizabeth Line generated £606 million in passenger income for the 2023-24 financial year, representing 12% of transport for London's total passenger income, up from 7% the previous year. Those aren't trivial numbers. A second Crossrail would be another game changer, increasing capacity, reducing journey times, and making London an even more productive city. Construction on part of it is set to start next year, with a £1.1 billion expansion of the British Library, including office space on land safeguarded for Crossrail 2's future Euston and Street Pancras station. It's a tantalizing taste of an exciting future, and it demonstrates that long-term planning is happening, even if progress feels frustratingly slow. So there we have it. 5 projects, £163 billion, and a chancellor who needs to decide whether she's serious about growth or just another politician making noise. Northern Powerhouse Rail, the Varsity Line, HS2 completion to Leeds, Leeds Rapid Transit, and Crossrail 2. Each project represents a test of political will. Each one requires thinking beyond the next election cycle. Each one demands that we prioritize long-term prosperity over short-term penny-pinching. Rachel Reeves talks about growing the economy, about making tough choices, about building a better Britain. Well, here's her chance. These projects aren't luxuries. They're necessities. They are investments that will pay dividends for generations. The question is whether she has the courage to see them through, or whether we'll be having this same conversation in another decade, still waiting for infrastructure that other countries built years ago. If you want to stay informed as this story develops, and trust me, it will develop rapidly over the coming months, hit that subscribe button right now. We'll be tracking every decision, every delay, and every broken promise. This is British News Blog, where we hold power to account and don't accept mediocrity. The future of British infrastructure hangs in the balance, and we'll be watching every move. Subscribe, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next one.